Welcome to the Laughspin.com podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Dylan from Laughspin.com, and welcome to yet another episode of the Laughspin Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you aren't a subscriber, please do so. You can do it on iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher, all those good places. We really do appreciate it. If you are unfamiliar with the Laughspin Podcast, maybe you are. Maybe this is the first time you're tuning in. That's fine. Welcome to the Laughspin Podcast. But if you are unfamiliar with it, basically every week myself and co-host Mike deliver 30 minutes to an hour of comedy news. Sometimes we rant, we have a bunch of laughs. It's a good time. And then sometimes we do these special episodes wherein I interview some of my favorite comedians. And that is what you are listening to today. This episode I'm very excited about. It features my interview with Ted Alexandro. He was nice enough to let me into his home in Queens. Why did I talk to Ted now? Why now, Dylan? Why did we talk to Ted Alexandro now? I will tell you why. It's been 10 years since Ted released his first special entitled As Much As You Want. If you don't have it, I highly suggest you pick it up. And I also, more importantly, highly suggest you go to tedalexandro.com on February the 14th, Valentine's Day, because it is then and it is there at tedalexandro.com that you will be able to download and or stream for whatever price you want a brand new stand-up comedy special. It's called I Did It, and you need to go check it out. So what did we talk about? Ted and I, we talked about a lot. We talked about the mundane things that I find very interesting about a comedian's life, what he goes through every day. We talk about his evolution, how he sort of unplugged from the business of comedy for a bunch of years and sort of found himself in really great opportunities and finding, a really good rhythm to his career without the business side of comedy. We do a little life coaching, mostly Ted to me. I'm always up for some life coaching. Ted is a very wise man, I believe. He taught me a lot, and I think he's got a lot of really cool, valuable things to say, just in the way of life, of living your life. Not that he tells you how to live your life, but I think he's got a lot of valuable things to say, in addition to him being funny. So I'm going to shut up. I really do appreciate you tuning into the Laughspin Podcast, and hopefully you enjoy my chat with Ted as much as I enjoyed chatting with Ted. Ted Alexandro?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. How about that weather we're having?
Crazy weather.
It's crazy weather. You need gloves.
You do.
You definitely need gloves. You can't get cocky like I did.
You found that out the hard way.
And you start to really, not to get super introspective here, but you kind of start feeling bad for homeless people a lot.
That does occur to me, yeah. Even just like walking a block when it's frigid, I'm like, wow, that's, how do they do it?
Yeah. I had my left hand out. I was walking around your neighborhood before this. So we're in Queens, by the way, everybody who's listening. We're in Ted Alexandro's home. Thank you for welcoming me.
My pleasure.
Into your home.
As I said, it gave me an excuse to clean.
Well, it looks lovely.
Thank you.
It looks lovely. Now I've brought a bag from the market in. Mm-hmm. My coat is there, and I have 2 bags and a black T-shirt on the ground. So now
it feels more like home.
Now it feels like you haven't cleaned it all. But yeah, I was walking. I could not find the difference. Well, there's many differences between, like a borough like Queens and Manhattan. They're not public trash cans every 2 feet.
Right.
So I was like, I didn't have gloves on. No big deal. I'm going to shove them in my pockets. But I also had a Dunkin' Donuts cup, and I didn't obviously want to just throw it on the street. Mm-hmm. So I was holding it in my left hand for, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. And I tried to text somebody and I could barely move my fingers. So that's one hand for 5 minutes.
So you had the hot coffee kind of warming the palm.
Well, it was empty at this point.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had no
Nothing, no protection.
No protection.
Yeah.
So that's 5 minutes and just one appendage exposed. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had the same where just there's a store on the corner that occasionally late night I'll run out for some kind of purchase or other.
Yeah.
And same thing. I'm like, I don't need gloves. It's just down the block.
Yeah.
And then like I really feel like I may have lost use of my hand.
It's no joke.
Yeah.
It's no joke. And like right now, like my hand has that like kind of burny sensation now.
Yes.
But so I feel grateful that I have a home
Yeah.
and such.
That's right. It does remind you.
So tell me, I'm looking, seeing as I'm getting some. I'm in your house. I'm getting some color about how you live your life.
Please, let's talk.
Tell me about this. There's a painting on. You have like what kind of green would you consider this on your main wall here?
I call it avocado, but
Yeah.
maybe it's a little lighter than that.
No, I think avocados. I think that's accurate now. But there's a tree painted. Did you do this or was?
Yeah, I did that. Occasionally, I get inspired to try artistic projects,
Yeah.
and it's the kind of thing that could go horribly wrong. Like painting a tree on your wall.
Yeah.
But I figured, let me just try. If it's bad, I'll paint over it. So I just painted a tree, which is kind of nice because just out the window are real trees. So yeah, I just kind of almost like a continuation of what's out my window. Just these tree branches and a few birds that were stenciled on.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a tree right there. It looks as if there's a branch pointing the same exact way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you did that. You didn't you just did that freehand.
Yeah.
I was going to say freehand.
Yeah, I kind of eyeballed what was out there and just tried to approximate what a tree would look like on my wall.
It looks good.
Thanks, man.
I like it.
And I wanted to you see, I kind of took it up onto the ceiling.
Yeah.
So, I figured the further and weirder it goes, it's like its own cool little corner.
I like it. I like it. So what other, do you do other artistic things? I mean, you are an artist after all. You're a musician, you're a comedian.
Yeah. Music is a big thing, like just playing piano, singing a bit. There's a little cafe just down the road here, Waltz Astoria, that does open mic nights.
I passed there.
Yeah.
I should have walked in.
Yeah. It's a nice little spot. I spend a lot of time there during the day writing.
Yeah.
Because it's so close by and it's nice and quiet, good place to hang. But they have open mic nights at like probably 2 or 3 days a week. So I'll go down there from time to time to do music.
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of comedians will show up.
Oh, really?
Younger comedians, new guys, or even like veterans sometimes will pop in there. And they'll see me. And like the last time I went, this young kid was like, "Oh, I don't want to follow you." But I was there to play music.
Okay.
I was like, I don't think you'll have any trouble. Not that you would any other day, but yeah, it was. I was just playing. I played a couple tunes. I like to do things that take me a little out of my comfort zone and scare me. I like doing those things, especially artistically, and because it always feels fun, no matter how it goes, and especially when it goes well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I think that's important because it sounds corny and cliche, but I think what starts to happen, even if you don't have a creative job, or if you do have a creative job, I think it starts becoming as stupid as this sounds, like a job, and I think it's good to kind of, like you said, scare yourself a little bit.
Yeah, it's a muscle, I think it's like any other muscle that you develop. And I think that muscle of feeling uncomfortable and embracing it and knowing that, you're not going to die, or that, even it kind of just helps you be okay with yourself, that no matter how this goes, what are you waiting for? I'm 45 now, so it's like, if I can't take chance, maybe when you're younger, you're a little more concerned about how you look or failing. But now I just do things because they're fun anyway, and I enjoy them.
Right.
And hopefully that comes across.
Right. Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, and it's not like you are a musician. So it's not like you're doing something complete. It's not like you're doing, it's not like you're doing something
that I've never done. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's true. I went to college for jazz piano. But it's not a muscle that I
right.
kept as sharp, So I'll play at home a bunch. I have a keyboard, and so I'll get into grooves where I play a lot. But then, it'll just hit me like, oh, maybe because there's a difference playing alone in your apartment versus
absolutely
in front of people, So that's the fun thing of and singing too, because I did musical theater in high school and college. I can carry a tune, but singing and playing, it's a different thing. So it was fun, man.
That's cool. That's cool. I'll have to stop by and see you perform that way.
Well, you'll have to hit the lottery because I just once every 2 years. But I'm trying to do it more often actually because I do like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wish. I was always in bands, but I'm a drummer, so which is great. But it's not the type of thing. I wish I had learned to play the piano or at least the guitar because it's not. You can't hang out at home and do that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can't. You need space. You need a tolerant family around you.
Something that won't disturb neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. So it gets a little. I'd like to be able to sit in my room and play music, but I have to learn an instrument that you can do that.
Yeah. I mean, even my keyboard, 9 times out of 10, I'll keep my headphones on.
Yeah.
The other time I'll plug the speakers in if it's during the day or something.
Right.
But yeah, I am. You're mindful of who's around.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about the special. So you got a special. By the time people hear this, maybe it'll be. It's coming out on Valentine's Day. Why Valentine's Day?
It just all came together perfectly. It wasn't a master plan, but it kind of was.
All right, so I have not seen the special as of this recording. But tell me, I mean, I've complained about you not putting something out for a long to you.
Right.
I feel it's important that you're annoying me.
Right. Well, I've been painting and playing music.
You've been painting and playing music. Meanwhile, every Joe Schmo comedian with 12 minutes is putting out an album.
4 albums.
Yeah. So why did it take so long, Ted?
It's a good question, and I've asked myself the same question over the years. I put out As Much As You Want in 2004, about 10 years ago. It's a long time. And since I've done, Comedy Central half hour, so that did come out in the interim. But, I think it was just a case of a few things. One being that a lot of my material in the interim started to become topical or, social commentary, political in nature, so that some of the stuff that I really liked was somewhat ephemeral and would just go, and that was it. As much as I loved it, I couldn't have a joke about, Katrina on my 2011 release or something, So anyway, so part of it was that, and the other part, when was Katrina? Maybe it was 2000. What? Well, you get the point.
Right, yes.
Whenever Katrina was.
Yes.
Whenever it would have been inappropriate to do Katrina. So basically it was the combination of that, and also I made a conscious decision about 5 or 6 years ago to kind of unplug from the business side of things. I got rid of all representation, management, not because of bad feelings towards anyone, but really just because I wanted to unplug and explore, and make decisions for creative reasons rather than when you're one client of 10 or 20 or however many, you're kind of plugged into a system where you do the next thing. You do the next logical thing on the treadmill of building a career. You do this late night show, then you do pilot season, you do this, you do that. So it all became I'd been doing that for 15 years anyway. And I felt why am I doing the same things the same way? I should have more ownership of my life and the decisions that I make. And the path that I choose. So I unplugged from that, and consequently, like, great things started to happen career-wise. I hooked up with Axis of Evil guys. Yeah. Maz Jobrani, Dean Obadala, Ahmed. Those guys contacted me and said, we're starting to bring over American comics. So I toured the whole Middle East with those guys in front of Arab crowds, So that was an incredible life experience, going to Jordan, Qatar, Kuwait, all over Egypt, all over the place. So these were great life experiences that were not like career driven. They were more life driven, but of course, there is the career benefit. And then Louis just saw me one night at the Cellar and asked me to open for him, which I did for a lot of leading up to Hilarious.
Right.
Got to open for him at Carnegie Hall. So really, it was a blessing in the sense that I wasn't thinking about my career so much. I was just like trying to get better as a comedian, trying to challenge myself, and it all worked.
That's great. Yeah, you've always come across as very, I don't know, are you the type of person that meditates at all?
I do, yeah. Not every day, but I do take time for some breathing and just kind of centering, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've always come across that way to me, just in like your delivery. Your delivery is very, like, you're not, the way you deliver jokes on stage, it's like you have this. You're not rushing through anything. Everything is like perfect. Not to kiss your ass while I'm sitting here in your house, but like everything seems very well crafted, very well timed. It's like when in a song, like when a drummer is in the pocket, just doing what he needs to do, not doing anything, over and above what he needs to do for fear of, he's going to screw up the song. Like you seem very kind of at peace.
Thanks. I would say it's accurate. I mean, 20 years into a stand-up career, I am pretty much at peace on stage. I've worked all over the place, different settings, worked my way up, and wasn't in a rush to do so.
Yeah.
So consequently, I think I gave myself that room to grow.
Yeah.
And also to not, jump on the first incarnation of myself, like my 30-year-old self becomes who I am for the rest of my life because that's funny, or that can be turned into a hook, or whatever the case may be. Like, I'm interested in continuing to grow and channeling that in my expression on stage. And I think, I had, again, by unplugging, I had the good fortune of kind of serving an apprenticeship under Louis, picking his brain, watching him at the height of when he was really becoming, kind of the phenomenon that he's become. I got to open for Craig Ferguson for a good stretch, for Lewis Black. So if I were making decisions for my own career and my own benefit, maybe I would have said, like, I should be headlining, or why,
Right.
I shouldn't be opening, or
Right.
But that was not my concern. My concern was interesting gigs with interesting people. I'm getting exposed to their audience, which is big. I'm learning from them. So I felt like all of that was sort of an apprenticeship to, hopefully prepare me for my own kind of path.
Right. Now, you are still unplugged?
Meaning in terms of the business?
Yes.
No, I do. I started up with management and representation like a year or two ago.
Okay.
Kind of feeling as though, kind of voicing what you're voicing of like, let's go. Let's pick things up a little. I was working the whole time, but it was just like in the larger sense of putting out an album or, a special, these kinds of things. So yeah, it was time for me to do those things again. So that's what I did, yeah.
Now, do you feel like, even though you are now plugged back in, do you feel you're treating that scenario different than you did, right before you unplugged?
Yeah, well, I'm older, I'm more experienced. I've learned a lot, again, from being around folks who've been through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between being a comedian and having a job in show business.
Mm-hmm.
People like Louis has had several writing jobs, high profile, Chris Rock, Conan. He's had his own show, Lucky Louie, So these are jobs in show business.
Mm-hmm.
These are things you have to show up 9 to 5. And comedian's not a job that you're really answering to anyone. Same with Louis Black. Craig Ferguson obviously has a job. So there's a lot more responsibility that goes along with a job in show business than a career as a comedian entails. Like we bitch when we have to wake up for morning radio.
Right.
So I have yet to have a job in show business, not because I don't want one, but I would like a job that I want to do that, again, makes me happy, challenges me, doesn't feel like a compromise.
Right.
So, to speak to your point, I think now I'm at a point where I know what I want. I know who I am. I know my voice. And I'm very comfortable saying yes or no, or this is what I want, this is what I don't want. So, yeah, I think it's a good place to be and a good time to re-engage with the business and, kind of just put my projects back out there, both my hour and my web series Teacher's Lounge. Just two things that I've been working on for the past couple of years that I thought it would be appropriate to try to reach a larger audience with.
Right. And what's going on with Teacher's Lounge?
Teacher's Lounge is going to be coming out next month in March through Huffington Post.
Oh, nice.
We're going to roll out each of the 4 episodes that we shot. And for those who may not know, Teacher's Lounge is based on my own teaching experiences. Yeah. I was a music teacher. So I play the music teacher, my buddy Hollis James, who I've collaborated with over the years. He plays the janitor. We're always just hanging out in the teacher's lounge of the school. Right. And then other comedians come in every episode playing faculty. So the 4 that we shot, we have Louis Black as the principal. Yeah. Judy Gold is the gym teacher. Judah Friedlander is a computer science teacher. Ted Leo, musician.
Yep. Plays
himself in the 4th one. And Janine Garofalo makes the public address announcements.
Right.
So we're just really psyched, man, we're going to do a Kickstarter to shoot the next slate of 8 with folks like Jim Gaffigan and Dave Attell. Just various people from the comedy community.
Yeah.
And we just think it's like a really great vehicle to keep plugging in.
Yeah, just
comics.
Yeah, that way you don't need, you're the constant. I mean, there's a few constants, but other than that, there's no reason, not to keep rolling in different people and make it feel organic.
Yeah, and they'll play, anyone that might be in a school, whether it's a parent, a teacher, someone who's just there for some odd reason,
right?
Engaging with the kids or whatever the case may be, an inspector, So there's plenty of possibilities to just keep rolling people in and let them do their thing. And the cool thing is that Hollis and I write it, but we also leave room for improv to let, Louis Black be Louis Black.
Sure.
And we just, kind of, I guess the way Curb works or some of these, just hit the bullet points and express A, B, and C, but do it however you want.
Right. You're self-releasing the special. Why go that route?
Yeah, that was another consideration. Again, I thought, should I make the push to make a bigger splash and put it out with a bigger company and all this? I self-released my first one, As Much As You Want. When it came right down to it, I think I'm just built to do my own thing. I like making the decisions. I liked, picking the photographer, the person who designed the cover. I like making all of those decisions, and going to people that I know and not having to check with whoever that it's okay to do that, you know, and or the venue. I shot it at the Creek in the Cave in Long Island City, which is a very small 30-seat club, but it's a great place that I think played a role in my development over these last 5 or so years, because I was playing rooms like the Creek in the Cave and other rooms like it that that are a little more experimental, and maybe tap into what you were talking about. Like, I do take my time and I do think on stage, and I do that in clubs as well. But it's something that I've learned to do over these last 5 to 10 years, and kind of weave it seamlessly so that I do it in both settings, but perhaps a little bit more so in a club like the Creek.
Yeah. I think it's a great decision, and I hope more comedians go that route of starting to shoot specials in clubs. I mean, we've been seeing it. Sarah Silverman did her HBO thing in a very small venue. Morgan Murphy just released hers, very small venue. Doug Stanhope has been doing he shot one special at Gotham. He did another one. I think his newest one is in Portland at a club. And I think it's really valuable to the comedy consumer to see comedy done in much more intimate settings, which is, I think most comedy fans would agree, that's where it's best. Sure, it's a nice spectacle to see a comedian, like killing it in front of 3,000 people. It makes it more like a rock show, but I mean, some of my favorite shows I ever went to, I was like alone in a comedy club, just watching, somebody in a small venue. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that's a very specific environment, and a very specific vibe.
Yeah,
and I agree. As fun as it is to go to the carnival of a comedy special in a big theater with the sweeping cameras and a crowd that's been whipped into a frenzy, it kind of rings false to me, like in terms of it's not what I do every night.
Yeah.
What I do most every night is get up in front of a crowd that may or may not know me, and try to win them over and, make them laugh and bring them to me with my style, So I think this special really captures all of that, as opposed to the kind of fabricated, frenzy of a typical special.
Right. So people will be able to download and stream this from your site, correct?
That's right.
TedAlexandro.com.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah, man. It's, as long as it took, and I hope you can feel this way finally too.
And by the way, I mean this as a compliment.
No,
I don't
of course.
genuinely want to make you feel horrible or that you think I think you've not been producing.
No, I know.
Not that it matters what the hell I think about your output in life.
No, I know exactly what you mean, and you make a valid point. But I do think that I am very much at peace with how this has all come together, because, and that said, along the way, there's moments where you're like, oh man, like this is taking too long, or, I should have put something out, or, maybe I should just sign with this person and put it out through that label.
Right.
You know what I mean? All the things that you can do. But now I'm like, oh man, this is great. I'm doing it the way I want. I self-produced it. I paid for everything. I got the people I wanted to work with. I sat there and worked with the editor. So it's me, man, and it's kind of the way I live too. So I'm just happy with the way it came out.
Yeah, good. I can't wait to watch it.
Thanks.
And the other thing is, if somebody does, you like you said, you paid for it, you own it, it's all yours. So if somebody does want to do something else with it,
right,
you have the option to do that.
Yes.
And that's the best of both worlds, because you released it the way you wanted to. And if a Netflix wants it, or if somebody wants it,
they know where to find
let them fucking drop a truckload of money on you.
Sure. That'd be nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the meantime, like, I try to keep in mind with like what is fun about what I do and what I like, which is I wrote these jokes. I sat and the mysterious nature of any creative pursuit, that you sit there in a quiet room and an idea comes to you, or you're performing on stage and some inspiration comes. I kind of write both ways now. Mm-hmm. And then you have this hour to perform for people, and on top of which all of the other kind of decisions that I discussed, it's satisfying that you take ownership in every regard, that it's the opposite of what I was talking about earlier when I decided to take that break,
right?
Where I felt like I was just being led around like a sheep. And yes, I'll do that. Yes. You get an email. This is what you're doing next. Yes. Okay. Now you're going to this. Okay. I'll do that. Instead of like, what do I want to do?
Right.
So it was valuable for all those reasons.
Yeah. Do you have like a string of dates lined up, or are you going to stick around the city? What's next?
Well, I'm going to Philly next week, Helium, 19th to the 22nd. I'm going out to Michigan, Royal Oak.
Oh, okay, nice.
Comedy Castle.
Nice.
Yeah, so, I'll be doing some road stuff, and probably will try to beef that up throughout the rest of the year, because my intention is to not wait 10 years for the next one. But hopefully within a year or two, that's what I'm going to hold myself to.
You're like the Weezer of comedy. Remember when they put out the second album, and then it was like forever for the third album, and then they just started pooping out albums like every year.
Right. I'll have my Fat Elvis like Weezer stage where I'm just cashing in.
So you mentioned, and this is a comedian's life is something that always interests me, because I am not a comedian. I've never been a comedian. I've never really wanted to be a comedian. It just seems too difficult, and I don't have enough. My skin is not thick enough for it. So
as evidenced by your fragile hands.
Yes, I have very girly hands. Look at these. I'm like double jointed. I'm
referring to the way the weather affects.
Yes, they do. I'm like a cross between a girl and an old man. My hands. I'm 36. I feel like an 80-year-old. So you mentioned it's a little past noon now. You mentioned comedians, they hate it when they have to get up and do morning radio. So what is an average day? When do you awake from your slumber? What do you do?
I usually wake up anywhere between 9 and 10, 10:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then some days I'll kind of take like the quiet time that we were discussing, like just sit and do a little breathing and that kind of stuff, and just centering, and not immediately jump into the craziness of the computer or the phone. I usually don't set an alarm either. I don't like to. I don't, that's kind of something in recent years that I realized, like, I'm setting an alarm, like, you wake up alarmed,
Right. Right.
So I figured, like, I don't have, like, let me just go to bed at a reasonable hour and wake up when I wake up.
Right.
And, yeah. And then I'll go to the gym, maybe 3-4 days a week, just like things that make me feel good and kind of keep me balanced.
Yeah.
And, then writing usually, whether it's comedy or otherwise, for usually a couple hours. Now,
do you go to the gym because it genuinely makes you feel good, or you feel guilty if you don't go?
I would say it's more the former than the latter. Like, I do feel guilty if a week or two goes by and I haven't. But it's really more that it's part of my lifestyle. I think like an overall like healthy lifestyle that makes me feel good mentally and physically, and all of this shows up on the stage. Like, things don't happen in a vacuum. Like, the person that I am on stage, and the style that I speak in, and all of that comes from, a million little decisions that you make in your life. You know? You don't just show up on stage and be that, whoever you are. It's because of the way that you live, and all of the life decisions that you make inform your comedic perspective.
Yeah.
So I try to make good life decisions because that's what shows up on stage. I don't work backwards from like what's going to further my career, what's going to make me funnier or whatever. I just think of like what makes for a good, balanced, interesting, healthy life, and sometimes getting out of my comfort zone, challenging myself in those types of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do think that all of those things, maybe not overtly, but in some subtle way or other, show up with who you are on stage.
Yeah. 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 It makes sense. Okay. So gym, then back home.
Yep. Back home, just clean myself up and then, maybe go to,
Okay. So this is important. You don't clean yourself up at the gym. You wait till you get home. These are the details I like.
I used to not be a fan of that, but I've been doing more of that lately, cleaning up at the gym, especially if I have somewhere to go right after.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like to handle my business, in private.
Sure.
Some of these guys, as we all know, just like there's a comfort level that I don't really have with just walking around the locker room and stuff.
Old guys usually.
Old guys, yeah.
Are very comfortable.
Yeah.
They will carry on an entire conversation with you with their balls hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I kind of shy away from that, but Yeah, so once I'm home, just shower, whatever, and sometimes right at home. Other times go down to the cafe, Waltz Astoria, or one of the others. Like sometimes I'll go into Greenpoint or Williamsburg just for a change of scenery.
Yeah,
find a quiet place. Sometimes a library. Just I try to change up my locales just so that keeps me interested, and you're looking at different things,
right?
All that.
Got it. How many nights a week are you doing spots?
I would say typically 4 or 5 nights.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 7 to 10 spots a week. Yeah. It's not really a hard fast rule that I hold myself to, but it usually turns out to be about that.
Got it. You're doing spots tonight?
Tonight I am not. Tomorrow night I will be. This is like a busy kind of prep week because of the special, but
sure.
So it's a little lighter than usual.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. I have a good sense of how you live your life now, Ted.
Yeah. It's a pretty simple, quiet life, but then there is family, friends, activism. It certainly factors in too. But I try to, again, balance has always been a key word for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I find myself swinging too far in one direction, or I'm pretty good at self-correcting, like, identifying like that's probably not a good behavior. You're getting a little crazy with this or that, or even if it's not necessarily like a bad behavior, like an unhealthy behavior, but just that it's an imbalance. You're spending too much time. You're neglecting the other parts of yourself,
right,
or your life. So if I have any kind of talent, I think it's for that. It's for recognizing the need for balance.
All right. That's I don't know if that's a marketable talent, but lucky for you, you already have a marketable talent.
Right.
So yeah, you mentioned activism. I know you were very active with the Occupy Wall Street movement. So part of what I wanted to talk to you about is what is your overall, because I know you have interesting ideas about this sort of stuff. What is your overall kind of takeaway with what is going on in Washington right now with Obama, the new healthcare? The older I get, Ted, the more disenfranchised. I mean, I think this is probably normal.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more disenfranchised they get, and the more I start thinking that no matter who is in office, it doesn't matter, and we're all doomed. Are we doomed, Ted?
It's a good question.
Is the middle class doomed? I guess is my real question, because the rich people are doing they're fine.
Right. Yeah, you could definitely make a case for that. I mean, over 30 years, the working class, the middle class has been decimated. You know, unions have been attacked. All of the things that you're talking about are true. You know, working class working harder than ever, but wages have, you know, the value of wages have in fact decreased since the 70s. So yeah, are we doomed is a good question, but that's why I'm involved. You know, that's why I'm out there participating, and I think that's the key, is finding your little place that you can make an impact, you know, wherever that is. We started up Occupy Astoria, Long Island City, locally, myself and a couple of neighbors who live on my block that I actually met at Zuccotti Park. You know, I'd lived next to them for 8 years, I think, at that time, and we'd never met, but I met them down there. And now we're like, you know, the best of friends. So we started up Occupy Astoria. Now we have, you know, something like over 300 people on our Facebook page. So we do things locally, and we tap into the larger movement as well when necessary, when needed. You know, Pete Seeger, who just died, legendary singer-songwriter and activist. He's such a great model, I think, in terms of the way he lived. Here's a guy that acted locally. You know, he would go to just even the smallest little gatherings of whatever the particular cause was, bring his banjo and sing. Like, there are countless stories of, you know, activists being on the side of a highway protesting something. Right. And Pete Seeger would show up. And, and I heard one story where he actually crossed the road to the opposition and like hung out with them and talked to them too. So there's a great example of a guy who is, you know, a quote unquote celebrity. Right. But is just doing the small things, you know, and any time that we, I think, link with community and, you know, lend our voice and our presence, you know, with others, that is time well spent. Because those are the things that really ripple out and matter, you know, and really might be our only line of defense at this point, because those little things do grow, you know, and I think that's what's been happening in the months and years since Occupy Wall Street was evicted from the park. Yeah. You know, that message has resonated, so that a lot of grassroots organizing has been going on since, and a lot of kind of community organizations have been linking up, and a lot of cool things have been happening on the ground that obviously aren't going to be in the, you know, the mainstream press. Right.
So, I mean, I know this is a kind of a lofty question, but I mean, fundamentally, what needs to happen? So right now, I mean, there's just a huge gap between, you know, what you would consider wealthy people and the middle class. I think that gap has gotten larger over the last few years. So, you know, and Barack Obama has tried, you know, I think he's tried to close that gap, and I don't know that anything's really working.
Yeah.
Like what from a fundamental perspective, what needs to happen, and does it matter if he's in office or if, you know, somebody from the GOP is in office?
Unfortunately, I don't think it really matters very much at all. I think both parties are kind of beholden to corporate interests, as we've seen through, you know, whether it was Carter, Reagan, Bush, you know, Clinton's the one who repealed Glass-Steagall, which kind of let the banks run wild. So whether it's Democrat or Republican, you know, Bush, Obama, we've seen, you know, a decimation of working class people, you know, and the landscape that used to allow for the American dream, like kind of to scale, you know, that allowed for class mobility, which isn't there really anymore. So, you know, I think what has to happen is that government has to be reclaimed by the people, that it can't be serving the corporate interests, which is really what it does almost exclusively now. And it's so hard to take back, you know, that power, because it's pretty much lock, stock, and barrel. But I think it can happen, and I think, you know, there was a socialist candidate out in Seattle who just upset. She won the city council. Shama Sawant is her name, and overtook like a long-standing Democrat because she ran on a very Occupy type of platform and $15 minimum wage. Took no corporate money. So those types of grassroots organizing, I mean, I don't identify as a socialist or as any other. I don't really have an affiliation.
Yeah.
And I think those affiliations largely are kind of what are divisive and
It's
what
damaging.
keep us fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Like let's have conversations about issues, and things that will really help people and families and, healthcare, and like why are people going bankrupt because they can't afford healthcare when some kind of tragic situation occurs, or
Yeah.
why are people coming out of college with mountains of debt that enslaves them for the rest of their lives?
And no job prospects.
That's right. So there's a lot of things to consider, but again, that's why I stay tapped in, and I also am around people who inspire me, I mean, I'm pretty recent to the activism game, but I've met so many people that just live great lives and are interesting people, smart people that inspire me to do better and to learn more. So, I would say that all probably tapped into what we were discussing earlier too. Like what I've been doing in these 10 years, I've been growing a lot in that regard as well, and learning a lot, and just being around people who kind of nourish me and challenge me in ways that maybe otherwise I wouldn't be.
Yeah. I would like to reach that point. I think it's a healthy model, and hopefully someday I will embrace a model. Because right now it's just like, I feel like, I mean, yeah, we were just talking, I have 2 kids, I have a wife, which is great, but you feel, there's a lot of conflict. It's just like you wake up and there's just conflict. Mm-hmm. There's conflict in front of you, there's conflict in your head, and you start feeling shitty about not doing the things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've talked about your lifestyle on stage, about how you feel you've won. You did it. You did it. You don't have kids. You're happily unmarried. I assume.
Yep.
And I mean, walking into this place, it's like quiet. It's like, this is like, I know the grass is always greener, but this is nice. I could sit on this couch for another 4 to 5 hours, Ted.
You're welcome to.
I'll do it. I'll run errands for you. I don't care. I'll do your grocery shopping.
Yeah, well, I think it's true what you say, though. I mean, the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those single guys that takes like an antagonistic view towards marriage. I hope to get married. If I find the right woman and start a family and all that, I kind of feel like I'm built for it. But I also don't want, we discussed earlier about like finding the right partner.
Yeah.
And the right person that you want to raise a family with, because it's such an important decision.
It is.
So yeah, I'm in no rush to, when that happens, it happens.
If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
That is, and we talked about this with not recording, but that's finding the right partner. That's crucial, because looks fade. And Ron White has this bit, is the name of his album, You Can't Fix Stupid, and it's all about, that's it. That's reality,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hot wife is nice, but
it's a long road.
It's a long road, Ted.
Yeah. But, to get back to what you're saying, I think the answer is, just make those simple decisions that point you in a direction that you're happy with, and surround yourself with people who inspire you, show up at one, quote unquote meeting or just whatever group you're compelled to, volunteer. Like you'll be around people, because it's a hopeful act. Like showing up is a hopeful act, right? So you feel good about that. Even if like once you get there, like you are commiserating and saying like, oh, things are really fucked up, right? But you're talking to people who know,
Right.
So there's a measure of solace in that.
Shit, man, I feel like I've just been life coached. I have been life coached.
That was an alternate title for the special.
Is that true?
Ted Alexandro, life coach. No.
Listen to me. I'm like, that would be great. I would buy that. Yeah, people scoff at the concept of life coaching. That's stupid. I'm like, that sounds great. Like, can somebody tell me if you know a life coach? I will go to that person. I'm all about seeking out help. So, all right. I think we've had a nice chat.
Yes.
This is a good time to end things. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of talk about that I didn't address, Ted?
No, man. I think we hit it, Yeah, I did it. Is out, I guess. And yeah, man, I just would like to say that I'm really proud of it, and it was the culmination of living these last 10 years, and a lot of decisions, like I said, along the road.
Yeah.
That kind of birthed the special that this is. And what I like too is that it is, when you look at my first one and my second one, it's 10 years. So obviously I'm two different guys, but I'm really proud that I think it both capture where I am as a 35-year-old, 34-year-old, I guess I'm 30 and 44-year-old when this was shot. So yeah, I think it really, I'm proud of of the what it represents.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just the special itself, but the progression, the how the special came about.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, I'm proud of the special and the material. It's kind of like a combination of some greatest hits from these last years with newer stuff and storytelling, and it's got all of the things that I do in it. So yeah, so both in terms of comedically and also like what it represents in terms of my growth.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Nice. Can't wait to watch it, Ted.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And there you have it, Ted Alexandro. Remember, go to tedalexandro.com and stream and or download I Did It, his new stand-up comedy special, his first in 10 years. Make sure you do that. Laughspin.com is where you should be going every day for your dose of comedy news and videos and analysis and all that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Laughspin Podcast. I am Dylan Godino, editor of Laughspin.com. We will talk to you next week.